Okay, so let's jump into competency 6, which is described as giving and receiving effective feedback and challenge. So this one for me, I'm always really fascinated by, because again, a bit like powerful questions, the word challenge often has a connotation that is one of discomfort for people. So let's have a chat about the word challenge in the context of coaching. What do you think great challenge looks like?
I tell you what, I don't think it is. And that's what comes to my mind, first of all, is that it has to be combative and that it's like, oh, like I think challenge can be, through the trust and rapport that you've built and all the other elements, again, all the other competencies coming together. That challenge can be as simple as being quiet, playing back what you see, noticing, getting a client to really have that point of reflection, and that in itself can be challenge. And there are times where you might want to be what I sort of say is a bit more pokey and a bit more, and I think that when I think of challenge, it is about many different things, if you see what I mean. So it's not one style. It's not, and I might again reflect on my own personal style. And so when I'm not coaching, I'm like this when I'm challenging, and I need to be aware of that and know that I might be somebody that's more likely to use maybe humor or that, but I know that I might need to dial that down a bit to be a bit more direct. So I think that helps as well, is knowing what you're like with challenge yourself as one challenges you, as well as where you naturally go. But I do think that challenge has many facets to it. Very nice.
Yeah, so challenge is one of my values. And for me, that's about that on the edge, stretchy, I take myself to a place that, oh God, this was really uncomfortable and it's going to go one or two ways, but I'm in it kind of thing. So I'm really mindful that whenever I contract with a client, we talk about challenge and what challenge looks like in coaching, and what, holding silence, playing things back, what's, when I ask them about challenge, what does it mean to them, and then, and really having that deep dialogue, because you're right, it's got that many legs to it. People will think of it in so many different ways, and often quite negatively.
Yeah.
Because whenever they've been given feedback, it's been challenging and it may not have been done in the right way. And depending upon people's own preferences around how they like to receive and to give challenge, absolutely plays out in the coaching space. So for me, because challenge is a value of mine, but it isn't necessarily always right for every client in every session. So again, to your point, knowing how it manifests in me personally is a really interesting place to start the dialogue with clients.
Yeah, and actually for me, it's probably different in so much of, I think for me, challenge sits in that conscious competent space. For me, I have to consciously think about dialing up the challenge when I'm with clients, because my natural F preference gives me really high support. That comes more naturally. That's more unconscious competence, whereas the feedback and challenge is, I know in order for this to be a really great coaching relationship, a great coaching session, dialing up the challenge and making sure it is a bit pokey at times is really something I consciously think about. So because it's not a value of mine, it's very different for me. But that contracting around, well, what does it mean for you as a client? Like, what does challenge actually mean? And I find that fascinating, that sometimes you can, have a coaching session, and at the end of the session, the client will be like, oh, that was really challenging. I found it a bit uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, was it?
You're right. It's so different for different people. And like you were talking about, when you contract, I think when you initially meet with somebody, they'll be like, yeah, I can. Yeah. And I love a challenge. Yeah. And I do find it's something you do need to keep contracting on, because there might be now they understand more. It's like, can you dial that up a bit more, or do you need to dial it back a bit, like where are we at? But once people have got more of an understanding, I think you can maybe, you can get it more tailored to what's going to work with it.
Yeah.
This to me feels indirectly linked, I guess, to the high support competency in terms of what position are we coming at this from? So is this challenge that's delivered and felt as though it's coming from a critical parent? Or is this challenge that is delivered with intention for the value and benefit of the client, not from the position of me and my views on you? So I think what we often feel is people are uncomfortable with the word challenge or to be challenging because you immediately assume that means that I'm right, they're wrong, and I've got a parental view on something. And actually, when you understand that challenge is purely about adding value and benefit to you, the client, by being honest and real about how I'm experiencing you and what I'm noticing without judgment, and it feels a slight sense of ease in the conversation.
And I think that lends itself as well to when you're sitting as a leader or within a team, if you're providing feedback to somebody. A couple of things is it from a position of high support? So does this person know that your intentions are positive? Are you in a position where you have supported them and championed them in the past? And therefore, when you give them critical feedback, it's from that position of high support. But also that we're both adults, let's have a conversation, a dialogue about this, because we always talk about feedback's about perspective and opinion. It's very rarely about fact. It's you had this impact on me, or I noticed this in you and it had this impact. Well, that's from the position of you, isn't it? So what did you see? What did you understand? And that giving and receiving feedback with a coaching lens on is very different to, I'm going to sit you down, I'm going to tell you what you've done wrong because I'm right and you're wrong and you did this to me. Very, very different.
It suddenly feels like I need to.
It's that learning conversation, isn't it? So it's moving from that tell and that parent style into that, I believe in you, how do we make this better?
For me, the greatest learning experience on this competency, I can again remember being in my coach training program and the tutor talking to us around feedback and why we do or don't give feedback. And there was a reference on a slide and it said something along the lines of, if you're seeing something but not saying it, and we talk about this on CWC, how committed are you really to the client and their success? And that for me almost gives me a freedom to remind myself of the positive intention of why I'm giving difficult feedback.
It's a privilege again. I think actually, if I find myself in a position where I'm like, okay, and I still have those physical reactions myself where I can start to feel like this is a bit, maybe a bit of a butterfly or a bit of a, okay. And I sort of think to myself, okay, if not me, then who? And I'm going to, ask for permission, but this is in service of this client, and maybe no one else is ever going to say it to them. And that is such a privilege. And if you've got the trust and rapport there, it will be, received in the right way because you're giving it in the right way. It's that support, isn't it? It's coming from a position of care, but that it's such a privilege to have that space to really have that conversation.
And I have a real belief, and it's based on, it's evidential over 15 years of coaching, that simply from an external perspective, organizations and leaders who request coaching are almost always saying, I need the challenge. I don't get it internally. I get a critical parent challenge, but I don't get really insightful, deep, emotionally aware led challenge.
And do something with.
And that's what I'm paying you for.
But
that's
the more
what
senior you are,
we don't.
Slowly, and you don't get that feedback. You get told.
So the challenge, I guess, for internal coaches is it's quite tricky, isn't it? Because I know that I might give you this feedback and then tomorrow I might be working with you in a meeting and what if you don't like me because I've just told you something that was observed? So I do I do sort of understand that there's a tension there, and maybe the importance of recontracting constantly allows permission levels to play out. There is a difference between internal and external, I think, about this competency.
Yeah, agreed. So for this competency, it's coupled with the high support. So giving and receiving effective feedback and challenge coupled with high support, putting the two together, making sure it's from that position of high support. It's about, if you're not giving the feedback, are you really, really invested in this person? Do you really want them to be successful? And actually challenge comes in many different forms, doesn't it? It doesn't have to be a direct question or a real kind of visible poke. It can be silence and giving space for something just to register.
Yeah.
But we're in a privileged position as coaches to provide that space and to give them perhaps something that they have never had before.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.